He wanted revenge on a married woman, but fate had other plans that left him stuck forever. Hello guys, today we bring you another fascinating movie to your wonderful screen. This movie is definitely going to blow your mind, and I'm pretty sure you will love it. But before we dive in, why don't you grab some snacks and subscribe to this channel for more amazing movies from us? The movie opens with a young, beautiful woman named Abigail, eagerly waiting for her husband's arrival. When he finally arrived, he was cold and hostile toward his wife before going straight to his room, leaving her worried and confused. Later, Abigail went to their bedroom and pleaded with her husband, Kaz, to have sex with her, as it had been a while since he last touched her. But he angrily asked her to leave, insisting he was tired and stressed and needed rest. She left, heartbroken, to her room where she cried her eyes out in despair. Meanwhile, a young handsome man named Nato was seen training with his punching bag, with anger and rage all over his face. Days later, Abigail was out on the street doing her evangelism and sharing her church flyers when she came across Neto. She tried to preach to him, but instead of listening, Neto stole the show and began flirting with her, admiring her beautiful smile before excusing himself. Abigail was shy and surprised. Later that morning, Abigail was serving her husband his meal when she overheard his conversation with his side chick on the phone about sending her money. She didn't say a word, but watched him disrespect her, speaking to different women right in her presence. He finally excused himself without touching his food. Abigail pleaded with him to join her for fellowship, but he bluntly declined, insisting she should attend her church while he went out to make money. He then picked up his side chick, who was waiting outside, and drove off. The following day, Neto and his niece, Mercy, came to apply for a student visa for her, and coincidentally, it was Abigail who attended to them. Neto was surprised but excited to see her again. After their pleasantries, they got down to business. When they finished, Neto saw Mercy off to the car, then returned to have a personal word with Abigail. They got to know each other better, exchanged contacts, and enjoyed their conversation. Days later, Abigail was seen preaching at her fellowship. After the service, the mummy Gio checked on her and commended her ministry, encouraging her to keep it up before leaving. That night, Abigail prayed a short prayer to God to make her husband desire her again, because he had deprived her of intimacy for almost 2 years. After praying, she went in faith to seduce her husband, but unfortunately Kaz was unmoved. He chased her away, leaving her humiliated and heartbroken. She cried and lamented to God for her pain, especially after all her fasting. Confused and frustrated, she received a call, and guess who it was? Neto. He managed to make her feel comfortable as they bonded throughout the night, talking and laughing. The next day, Abigail shared her ordeal with her friend Kiki, explaining how frustrated she was in her marriage. Even her sex toy wasn't doing any justice. She needed a man's touch. Neto's constant attention was making things worse, leaving her more confused and tempted. Kiki sympathized and consoled her. Days later, Neto paid a surprise visit to Abigail at her office, bringing her lunch. She accepted it, and the two bonded even more, laughing and enjoying each other's company. One night, Abigail was about to have dinner when Neto visited again, asking to eat with her. She was shocked but allowed him in. He ate and praised her cooking skills. They had a great time together and enjoyed every bit of their conversation. That same night, Abigail, craving her husband's touch, undressed herself in tears, hoping he would at least be moved to make love to her. But Kaz simply put on his clothes and kicked her out of his room, leaving her humiliated like never before. But guys, what exactly is the reason her husband has refused to touch her for 2 years? Not like she ever cheated on him. So why? Stick around as we unfold it together. The next day, Abigail was seen at the church altar, lying flat and praying to God. Their mummy Gio came to check on her, and after hearing about her marital ordeal, she felt pity and encouraged her to stay strong in faith. Days later, Abigail was on her way out when Neto suddenly bumped into her and almost started flirting again. She nervously shouted that she was married and walked away, leaving Neto surprised and heartbroken. That night, Neto couldn't control his disappointment and anger. He kept punching his bag, then picked up a photo frame, looked at it, and smashed it on the floor in rage. The next day, Abigail realized she hadn't seen or heard from Neto. She stylishly went near his compound. as they lived opposite each other, but there was no sign of him. Later at the office, Mercy came to collect her visa documents. Out of curiosity, Abigail asked about Neto, and Mercy replied that he had gone for a meeting. After she left, Abigail felt sad. Wait, could it be that she has fallen in love with Neto, judging from how she felt about his absence? What do you think, guys? The next day, Kaz was about to leave for the office when Abigail rushed out from the kitchen and pleaded with him to come home early so they could celebrate their third wedding anniversary together. Reluctantly, he agreed and left, leaving Abigail excited and happy. That night, Kaz didn't return home as promised. Instead, he went to the bar with his friends. There, he spoke demeaning words about his wife, saying she always smelled of cooking ingredients and still expected him to touch her. One of his friends supported him, while another rebuked them, saying if they didn't like their wives like that, they should hire maids. But the two ignored him and continued their silly conversation. Back at home, Abigail patiently waited for her husband's return. She even prayed to God to bring him home. Then suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Smiling, she hurried to open it, thinking it was her husband, but standing before her was Neto. Surprised to see him, Abigail asked why he came, and Neto began expressing his feelings, confessing that he couldn't get her off his mind even though she was married. Abigail, already looking lost, invited him to join her for dinner. As they ate, they connected even more deeply, sharing laughter and glances that grew too intense to ignore. Later, in his apartment, Neto felt bad for falling in love with a married woman. He looked troubled, not just because of his feelings, but because something darker seemed to be hiding behind his intentions. Meanwhile, Abigail confronted Kaz angrily for disappointing her on their anniversary, but he showed no remorse, instead rebuking her harshly, provoking her to walk away in tears. The next morning, Abigail woke up feeling unwell and went back to bed. When Kaz prepared for work, he was disappointed to see no breakfast ready and left without checking on his sick wife. Hours later, Abigail called him, pleading for help to take her to the hospital, but Kaz hung up on her, leaving her helpless and weak. Moments later, there was a knock on the door. Struggling to open it, she found Neto standing there. Exhausted, Abigail collapsed on him, and Neto quickly rushed her to safety, ensuring she was fine. Hours later, he microwaved some food and fed her gently, leaving her deeply touched by his kindness, something her own husband had never shown her. Neto watched her fall asleep peacefully and soon drifted off beside her. When Abigail woke up, she found him sleeping quietly. Watching him, she felt a strange peace, and as she gently touched his face, Neto woke up, only to see tears rolling down her cheeks. At that moment, Abigail couldn't hold back her emotions any longer. She leaned in and kissed him. One thing led to another, and they made love. Moments later, guilt struck her hard. Abigail, now filled with regret, told Neto to leave her house immediately. She accused him of taking advantage of her and warned him never to come close again. Neto, calm and heartbroken, tried to assure her of his genuine love, but she insisted he leave. After he was gone, Abigail broke down, crying and praying to God for mercy. The next day, Abigail sat lost in thought. After confessing her sin to God, she decided to tell her husband the truth. Later that day, just as Abigail was about to drive into her compound, Neto appeared again, pleading with her to listen to him. But Abigail refused and warned him to stay away from her before she got into more trouble. She drove off, leaving Neto confused and helpless. The following day, Abigail decided to pay her husband a surprise visit at his office, but she got the shock of her life. Another woman was in Kaz's arms, kissing and caressing him. She had always known he was cheating, but seeing it with her own eyes broke her completely. She quietly quoted some scriptures, then walked away in pain while Kaz and his side chick remained unbothered. That same day, Abigail went to see her mummy G.O., confessing her sin as a deaconess who had cheated on her husband. Her mummy G.O. consoled her and commended her for having the courage to admit her wrongs, encouraging her to stay strong. That night, Kaz was out again with his friends, bragging about how Abigail reacted after catching him with another woman. He was unbothered and arrogant, saying she would never leave him, that she would endure his behavior until she died. His friends warned him to be careful, reminding him that not every woman is as gentle and patient as Abigail. but he brushed them off and continued drinking. Later, Kaz returned home and started scolding Abigail for barging into his office unannounced. While he was still yelling, Abigail abruptly interrupted him and dropped the bombshell. She told him she had slept with another man. Kaz was stunned and heartbroken. He never believed she could do such a thing. In anger and disbelief, he raised his voice at her in disappointment. But Abigail, furious, gave him a piece of her mind. After starving her of love and sex for 2 years, now he was angry because she cheated once? Kaz stormed out of the house and went straight to the bar again. His friends blamed him even more, which only made him angrier. As they argued, one of Kaz's side chicks entered, and he immediately turned his attention to her. Moments later, his first side chick, Bianca, walked in and was furious to see them together. Accusing him of cheating on her, she started a fight that scattered the entire place. But guys, do you think this chaos is the beginning of Kaz's downfall, or just the start of something even darker? Later, Bianca expressed her disappointment and heartbreak to Kaz as she angrily walked away. One of Kaz's friends came over and honestly advised him to change. He said, "If a side chick could react this way after you cheated on her with another side chick, how much more your wife, who has endured your excesses for years?" Then he walked away, leaving Kaz deep in thought. Bianca returned home and shared her heartbreaking experience with her friend, but instead of consoling her, her friend blamed her. She reminded Bianca that she had cheated on her boyfriend with a cheat, so she shouldn't be surprised that she got heartbroken. As a result, Bianca's boyfriend broke up with her. This provoked Bianca even more, and she angrily stormed into her room. Days later, Abigail confided in her mummy G.O. that she was going to divorce her husband. Mummy G.O. advised her to follow her heart, assuring her that God would be with her. Abigail felt relieved after the conversation. That night, while Abigail was studying the scriptures, Kaz walked in and began mocking her, calling her a hypocrite. At that moment, she boldly told him that she wanted a divorce. Kaz was shocked and speechless. He never believed she would have the courage to say that. In frustration, he raised his voice, but Abigail simply walked away. The next day, as Abigail was leaving the house, she bumped into Neto again. This time, he tried to express his true intentions, but Abigail told him she needed space from everyone so she could rebuild her life and her relationship with God above all else. Just then, Kaz came out, and suddenly, everyone's secrets were exposed. It turned out that Bianca was Neto's fiancée, and after catching her cheating with Kaz, Neto decided to take revenge by sleeping with Kaz's wife, Abigail. Bianca had broken up with Neto because he refused to give her 10 million naira for a wig and handbag, even though he was still planning their wedding. Meanwhile, Kaz was doing all those things for her. That was why she stayed with him. Abigail was heartbroken and disappointed after hearing all this. Neto apologized, explaining that revenge was his initial intention, but along the line, he had truly fallen in love with her. Abigail couldn't hold back her tears. She ran back inside, feeling used and disrespected, while the two men stood face to face in shame and anger. The following day, Abigail packed all her belongings. Before leaving, she asked Kaz one honest question: why he had stopped sleeping with her. But he couldn't give a concrete answer. This infuriated her even more, and she walked out. Outside, Neto tried to stop her to explain everything, but after listening to him, Abigail chose to leave for good, leaving him heartbroken and devastated. Days later, Neto visited Abigail at her office, but the secretary told him she no longer worked there and now worked from home. The secretary advised him to call her instead. Neto left quietly. That night, alone with his thoughts, Neto prayed to God to guide, heal, and bring Abigail back to his path so he could sincerely ask for her forgiveness. A few months later, Abigail was cleaning the church seats when, surprisingly, Neto walked in and saw her. Shocked and overjoyed, he ran to her and gave her a tight hug, leaving her shy but emotional. He explained how he had searched everywhere for her and had been praying constantly. Neto confessed his feelings once more, and this time, Abigail also expressed her love for him. They had both missed each other deeply and wanted to start afresh. Neto was overwhelmed with joy as he hugged and kissed her passionately. Years later, Neto and Abigail were happily married and expecting their first child. Abigail had become an ordained pastor, and Nato supported her in all her ministry activities as they both left for church together. It is said that sometimes God allows things to go wrong just to align us with the path He has destined for us. It may look like we are unfortunate or unwanted, but have you ever thought, what if God was behind it all to change the course of your life? The moral lesson of this movie is that some disappointments and heartbreaks are blessings in disguise. When life seems unfair, remember that God might just be redirecting your story toward your true destiny. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, comment your thoughts, and of course, subscribe to this channel for more captivating movies from us. Bye!